For those unable to hear me in the church, or unable to make it along to darkest Kent, I thought it would be nice to put Talbot's eulogy on the web. Writing this really helped me to bring together the various strands of my dad's rich life in my head, and I hope you also find some comfort in this. Dad spent his early life in Texas as one of 5 brothers, which must have been tough as he was still calling his dad sir well into his 60s, and only 3 of the 5 boys made it into their teens, leaving Talbot as the oldest. They were a tight family unit, but Talbot did realize at one point that he was going to have to make more effort with his brothers, Dan and Henry, or Uncle Dan and Uncle Henry to us, when he got into a scrap at school and found that they were the 2 noisiest supporters of his opponent, cheering and making suggestions from the sideline. As he got older, he would spend his school holidays as a deckhand on a Mississippi steamer where he developed a love of boats. This would stay with him throughout his life, and an understanding of the importance of literature when he became the scribe for the boat's excellent but illiterate Cajun chef, who, thanks to Dad, could finally stay in touch with his family. The cook was sufficiently grateful to ensure that Talbot was eating better than the captain. It was on this boat that he missed his first opportunity to go to Oxford, as a message from the scholarship board was unable to locate him on the river, and he did not get the telegram until it was too late. After school, Talbot went to the University of Texas in Austin and joined the Delta Kappa Epsilon fraternity, which has a fabulously checkered reputation and holds that the candidate most favored was he who combined in the most equal proportions the gentleman, the scholar, and the jolly good fellow, and Talbot lived up to that triumvirate throughout his life. Talbot was a Texan with an urge to travel, and on graduating in English literature, he took advantage of the opportunities afforded by being an educated American in the 50s to work in Hong Kong before returning to the US and doing a degree in engineering at New York's Cornell University. It was after this that he started working overseas for the US government on the front line of the hearts and minds and wallets part of the Cold War, trying to speed the development of the middle class in far-flung parts of the world and give them a good reason not to side with the USSR. But the draw of England was always strong. He had met a pretty girl while skiing in Europe, and he still hadn't been to Oxford, so there was nothing for it but to do a master's in English literature at Exeter College and spend time getting to know Jackie better. Luckily for John and I, this worked out, and before settling down, they went to East Pakistan, where Talbot pioneered a very successful form of development aimed at giving small loans to female entrepreneurs, who, unsurprisingly, have a far better success rate than their male counterparts. This nifty work was unfortunately cut short by the machinations of Henry Kissinger, and they had to be emergency evacuated ahead of their first coup. We were born a few years later. There followed a period in Texas whilst John and I grew up a bit, and then we were off to Jamaica, where Talbot set up a bank to help small businesses. The rest of us sailed, scuba dived, and listened to the gunfire at night from our house overlooking Kingston, Talbot with a gargle blaster and Mom with a glass of wine. John and I learned many important lessons there, but one stands out. When we thought we had heard an intruder in the garden, Talbot figured he would chase them off with some BB guns that looked like pistols. As he walked down the terrazzo stairs, we heard a tink, tink, tink noise, and I shouted down, "Dad, I think your BB fell out." Luckily, there was no one there, and on returning, he pointed out that in situations like that, you say, "I can't remember if I loaded dum-dums or hollow points, not your BB fell out." After Jamaica, anywhere would have looked good, but we ended up in Sri Lanka, which was by far Talbot's favorite overseas post, and Mom and him had an amazing time there despite the 3-way civil war that was raging. It was simply a relief that no one was actively aiming at us. Talbot kept up his sailing, becoming the Commodore of the Ceylon Motor Yacht Club, and competitively sailing 16-foot dinghies, very competitively sailing 16-foot dinghies, to the point that I once mutinied on him, bailing out of the boat and swimming for shore, and Jackie went on strike at least once in protest over his captaincy. Talbot learned to tone it down a bit, and then realized that Jackie was a very good captain in her own right, and he made a pretty good crew. As in so many other walks of life, they were an excellent team, making many friends and winning many trophies, which we are still using as tea mugs. In 1991, the Russian Federation collapsed, and Talbot and Jackie went to Moscow to lend expertise in unwinding state-owned assets. There they saw firsthand a drama unfold that is still casting shadows today. It was a demanding post and cost him some of his health. However, Talbot had the most wonderful Texan skill of spinning entertaining tall tales from worn cloth, and he was able to turn his experiences into captivating after-dinner storytelling, discovering Our Lady of the Immaculate Reception across from the US Embassy, tanks saluting rebel MPs from the bridge outside their window before shelling them, attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion, and trying to get deported by whispering seditious comments into the plug sockets, to name a few. Talbot's final posting was Botswana, which he would point out had barely any national debt and was doing okay, making it an odd place for a US aid mission. Whilst him and Jackie were there, I was looking for gold in northern Burkina Faso and feeling low, so I decided to give them a call. I was telling Talbot about what an unhinged place Burkina was and recounting a conversation I'd had a few days previously with my university-educated local geologist. When I said my dad worked for USAID, he looked sad and told me about how they were the agents of Satan and in league with the underground dwarves, helping the US steal West Africa's resources through long tunnels, witchcraft and submarines. Without missing a beat, Talbot said, "Holy moly, they're on to us!" Talbot finally realised his dream of becoming a member of what he called the English League of Distressed Gentlefolk when he and Jackie retired to their nifty old vicarage in Kent, a county precious to both of them. Here he was able to build a network of amazing friends and devote his time to hanging out with Jackie and their generations of dogs, repairing the house, dreaming about boats, and developing the East Kent branch of the Oxford Society. He was instrumental in how they dealt effectively with the university's centralisation of alumni, and he was also able to help set up a grant scheme to support students to go and do neat things, as long as they came and told everyone about it afterwards and were entertaining. Most of my stronger memories of Dad are from this time. He raised us to be good drinking companions, well-travelled, able to talk on a range of subjects, keep others entertained, and make sure their glasses weren't empty. As we grew up, he also got a lot more fun to talk to. To quote Mark Twain, "When I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much my dad had learned in 7 years." I used to love coming back to their home in Eastry to shoot the breeze with the old fellow. He was a constant source of good advice and very generous with his knowledge. I like making stuff and was once spitballing an idea with him about collapsible martini glasses for the thirsty traveller. He rightly pointed out that all martini glasses were collapsible. The trick was being able to use them again afterwards. And when I was struggling with a fence high enough to prevent my chickens escaping, he was quick to suggest the alternative approach of making my hens heavier. It was also always fun to bring back friends so that he could have a genial spar with them over dinner and see the world again through all of our eyes, which he and they greatly enjoyed. His kindness, sense of humour, wicked asides, and sharp intelligence were a real inspiration to me and my brother. He taught us how to be sharp, witty, and quick, but at the same time showed us the importance of being kind, constructive, and fair, and I hope that we are able to keep some of that alive through the way we approach our life and raise our own children. So, when you are next able to raise a glass to Talbot, I urge you to choose either his favourite toast, "Confusion to our enemies," or perhaps one more fitting for this occasion and reaching back to his university days, "To Talbot, the gentleman, the scholar, and the jolly good fellow."